I just want to introduce our next speaker. I realize we've been hopefully people are okay physically or want to stand up for a minute if they need to. Um, we have our next speaker is Renata, like Moise, and she'll be talking until 11:15, and then we actually have another speaker. Renata is on the East Coast in Maine right now. And I'll just give you a little introduction to her. I don't know if she's waiting in the wings or not. She's waiting in the wings. Okay. She's a certified nurse midwife and a painter. And she lives on the coast of Maine, beautiful town, beautiful home. And she's Eva Reich and Bill Moise's daughter. She's Wilhelm Reich's granddaughter. And the artist Bill Moise was Eva Reich's husband. And both Eva and Bill worked very closely with Wilhelm together. Hi.
Great to see you. Thanks. She's a nurse practitioner midwife, and she's been working since 1998 in more rural parts of Maine in a group practice. She's able to spend time with patients in a tough for hydrotherapy, water birth. She leads groups and survived professionally many different hospital administrations, which is no small accomplishment if you worked in a hospital. Renata has also taught sex education as a school nurse, provided contraception to patients in outlying rural areas, and she paints, grows vegetables, sails, and she's actually the president of the board of the Wilhelm Reich Museum Infant Trust. Yeah.
Hi, thank you. Thank you very much. Hi, everybody. So, Patty, there's no way I can get done in 30 minutes.
Oh, no,
Can I still have my 45 minutes?
Yes, please
Okay,
take it.
so the next person, so we're kind of.
We're always getting a little late.
Yeah,
but read to our schedule next time. Next so tight.
That's okay. Sorry. Hello, everybody, and I'm going to start, but if everybody wants to like stand up and wiggle their bodies around, that would be great. Just because you've been sitting for a long time and wiggle and breathe and everything. And I'm gonna do a PowerPoint, but it has a lot of pictures, in it, like things that you can look at and not just words. I will share my screen, which means that I have to move things around here so I can get to my PowerPoint and pick it and start it and play it from the beginning. So as Connie said, I'm the daughter of Bill Moise and Eva Reich, who Eva was Wilhelm Reich's daughter. And I grew up with the use of orgone energy accumulators and cloudbusters, et cetera. So, but today what I'm talking about is my experience through my life of just using on a, almost a daily basis accumulators of different types in my home for myself, but also spreading them with my friends and neighbors in a small town in rural Maine. I live in the woods on the coast, lots of trees, and I think that, of course, may help everything to be stronger where I live. But this is a montage. It shows my grandfather Wilhelm Reich being arrested up in the corner, or during that time of his arrest, my parents, myself in our little farm, and my father with the cloudbuster in the garden of the farmhouse. I currently live across the rural road from this home, and my son lives there now. Eva was a general practitioner. Many of you may know all this, and she practiced Orgone medicine along with allopathic or regular medicine in this little town where I still live, Hancock, Maine, for about 10 years. I have her records, things that she kept, one page of writing about her various patients. She used accumulator pads, blankets, accumulators made over a metal funnel. So those were called the funnel, and the doorbuster as needed with her medical patients. Patients came to our home. She went to their home. I was so tiny, I don't remember these details, but I heard the stories. And for many years, she would describe things. The townspeople accepted her, which is interesting and may have helped now, 60 years later, that my work with accumulators is accepted. She was also an excellent medical doctor as well as an excellent orgone doctor. And she referred patients for an X-ray if they needed it, or for lab work, etc. So my earliest memories, sitting in the accumulator, it was kept in our barn, where not with the cows, but in that large barn area. And she, anyway, I would be recommended to me by my parents if I felt ill, if I had a cold, they would suggest and help me to go into the accumulator. And I remember thinking in the accumulator how interesting it was that there were never any spider webs in the accumulator. Like the spiders that were all over the barn did not choose to live in the accumulator. And many of you or all of you know the feeling of sort of the illness lifting, clear head comes, you have some energy. And this did not last, it might last a few hours if I was a little bit ill, and then I could always go back into the accumulator again. The my not very good drawing here with the computer of what we would call the funnel, because these were the earlier kind of prototypes of the bowl shaped accumulator. This was 3-layer, and it sat on the shelf by our kitchen door inside the kitchen. So if you burned yourself, immediately you had it to put on your hand. And I was not aware that a blister was the result of a burn until I was about 12 years old and burned myself at a friend's house cooking. So also the accumulator was used in various forms on our farm animals or our pets. So this was just part of my life. And I'll just show you how I make them. I use steel wool, which I buy now in the rolls. You can buy them, like 6 rolls come in a very heavy box, and I get the really fine steel wool. And then using a wool blanket or a wool sweater, which is harder to find nowadays at Goodwill. But so the wool layer or a cotton batting, and then the steel wool and the wool layer and the steel wool, and finally for the outside layer, the last layer being the wool. And this is very simplistic, and I know all of you know this, but it is sort of how I not with a PowerPoint, but how I explain when I'm making these or giving them to friends. And so this shows several blanket accumulators that I have in my home, and the one on the right is the one my husband and I use on about a daily basis. The one on the left belonged to my mother-in-law, who recently died at age 100, and I've remade it with a new exterior, and I put velvet on the back of it, and I gave it to a neighbor who's just been diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. But now that Connie just spoke and talked about the radiation, I don't know his details, and I just know that it can really help him feel better, but I need to make sure he's not undergoing radiation therapy and using that at the same time. So thank you, Connie, for reminding me about that. And of course, always marking the skin side so that people, so this is from the very sort of in-depth talks we've had this morning, I'm bringing it back to a much more simple, simplistic perhaps level, but what I have found to be like we have this knowledge, we have this awareness of how people can feel better, how they can heal a burn quickly, and to not somehow be using it seems like a tragedy. So I was not I was not able to use accumulator orgone medicine in that respect in hospitals, of course. I use them always in my own life. But now that I have retired, I'm spending a lot of time spreading them out, kind of like Johnny Appleseed. So the next part of my talk, and I'm rushing through this so that I do get through it, but I was also asked to talk about the Wilhelm Reich Infant Trust, and the property is called Orgonon. This is a photograph of the museum, having been renovated, the museum building, the observatory was deteriorating terribly. The stones, if you can imagine, all of the concrete, the mortar between the stones falling apart, the wood rotting around windows, the siding, not on the top painting studio there, it had no siding for many years, and it was just deteriorating. And the sleeping porch, unfortunately, was nearly ready to just fall off the building. It was so rotted. The porch that you see had cracks in it, and water was getting down in. The stones on the steps were all falling out because all the water just sits on steps. And anyway, so we have been able to, thank goodness, save the building. And that's really exciting. This is a photograph of the building when it was either right after Wilhelm Reich died or when he was in prison. How the windows were boarded, everything had grown up. And when he died, there was no money in the estate to fulfill his wishes of his will. And he designated my mother, who was about 33 years old, as the sole trustee. She was not a person who could keep things organized in her own life. She wanted to have a baby, who ended up being me. And she knew that being this trustee and trying to run a museum was not the best thing for her life. So Eva gave over the trusteeship to Mary Higgins. And over all those years, the trust continued and existed and overcame great odds to continue and function. Financially, much of how it was able to survive at different times was by selling off pieces of the property. So this was something that we really wanted to stop. There are 200 acres remaining, and it's important that we find ways to not have to sell more and more land. It's also in a very quite remote area of Maine, for those of you who've been there, and it's very beautiful. And this photograph was taken during the eclipse in April of 2024, when Rangeley happened to be in the swath of the total eclipse. And this is taken from the roof of the museum. This is our website that has been, in the last 6 years or 5.5 years, has been updated dramatically. And we hope that you visit the website and visit the museum. In the late 1990s, Mary Higgins, thank goodness, set up the organization to be what in the United States we call a 501c3. And that means it's a nonprofit. It also means that as this type of an organization, you don't need to pay federal income taxes or state income taxes or property taxes, which really helps when you have a lot of property. But it also limits in some ways how we function. We have to try to stay very aware of what we can and cannot do as a nonprofit in the United States. We have an executive director, David Silver, and the board is a group of people who try to figure out how to keep things going, and David implements things living on site. The museum is in what used to be the observatory and is open in the summer, 3 days a week. The archives are the papers that were left over from when Reich died and weren't already published. We have a publishing arm now, the Wilhelm Reich Museum Press, and we're in charge of the intellectual property. We also have the physical property of the land, the blueberry meadows, and some vacation and rental cabins, conferences, and trails. are part of it. It's a lot. These are, and I'll go quickly because I only have a few more slides, but we're getting close to the end of my time. Since 2019, a lot has happened that has helped us to have a better control of where our money is going, and also better control of our what we own. So we regained control of the archives from Harvard. We rebuilt our website. We put on the webinars and also in-person and online conferences, and had such great help from many people with the conferences. Thank you. We've been awarded some grants by the Ephraimson Family Foundation, the Libra Foundation, the Fisher Family Fund, and even recently we had a $43,000 federal grant from a trail program that helps to renovate trails, and money from the Maine Historic Preservation. So, and the $250,000 museum exterior restoration project came as a gift from the Ephraimson Family Foundation. And of course, people donating so generously amounts of money just privately to help. We took back our publishing rights from the big company, Farrar, Straus and Giroux, so that we can now have a larger percentage of the money from the books. We started the press. We have new international language publishing agreements, and we've done significant property repairs to the cabin, to the conference building, to the director cottage. And we've come up with a long-term sustainability plan, because selling off land just is not sustainable and not what we wanted to do. And that involves having more tiny, simple, short vacation rental, little tiny places where people can come and be on the property and recharge from nature, and also learn about Wilhelm Reich if that's what they want, or maybe they just want to be there and recharge from nature. And this summer, we have a crew of 5 people coming for a month to do trail work for us, because the trails really needed that. And we have for our tiny cabin project, the Ephraimson Family Foundation has again donated a lot of money to help us jumpstart that. Hold on, let me see if I can go forward. Sometimes it doesn't want to. There we go. This is sort of a overwhelming picture, but it shows on the left the new septic system that the museum is getting as we speak, because the other one was an old, rusted metal drum in the earth. And in order to have people come onto the property, we need a good septic system. On the top is finally the painting studio, got refurbished, and the beautiful interior of the sleeping porch that was hand built by our carpenter, and down below when they were putting the new roofing on the museum. So there's just been a lot going on to help the property. This is sort of a prototype. I'm not sure if this will be the final name, but Orgonon Camps is the kind of working title for these tiny, it's like primitive structures, and there'll be a bathhouse. I don't know if you all know that sort of cement building attached on to the side of the museum that at one point they had like films in and things. At this point, it's not being used. So in there will be 2 very tasteful bathrooms that have showers and toilets. So people using our facility, that's where they'll have their showers and bathroom. And there'll be beautiful views, and will add more life. It'll be in the woods around the top of the museum. And one of the cabins is a 100-year-old log cabin that was donated to us. So last fall, it was taken apart, and this spring, it's being put back together so that we'll have that very soon to rent for people coming to enjoy the land. And here it is. And
Wow.
I know, it's pretty cool. And I'll give you another look at it. I can't wait till it's put back together and there for people to come to. And we still, of course, have Tamarack, which is so beautiful, and down at the lakeside, but these will be up, in the wooded areas, in the high fields. And this is an example on the left of what the bog bridging, as they call it, the ways that when you're walking on the trails and you have to go across a wet area. This is what it looks like now on the left. And here is the pile. I just took this photograph a couple days ago of the new cedar bog bridging that these 5 ambitious young people who are coming from the Appalachian Mountain Club are going to replace. Not just, there are 4 areas that will get this new beautiful bog bridging. And in this picture, you can also see the what we call the conference building. It got a new roof last fall, so that was necessary. And this is just a really short, kind of messy slide, but the WRM Press publishing 13 ebooks now under us. And also David spends some time flagging pirate books. I thought this was interesting. And the first sentence in that drop-in of the Mass Psychology of Fascism, David's been able to put, this is an unauthorized pirate edition. Amazon won't take it down, but they'll put in, this is an unauthorized pirate edition. And plus 16 of the printed books, and possibly more to come. Exciting stuff happening in 2025. And this summer, James Strick is offering his introduction to the scientific work of Wilhelm Reich on site at Orgone, July 21st through the 25th. And all of this is on the website. You can find that there. And I think quite a few people have already signed up for this. And this is also very exciting. It's the virtual summer conference. This will be only by Zoom, contact and attachment. Wilhelm Reich and John Bowlby's views on bonding, trauma, and well-being. So again, trying to tie in what's happening in modern psychology, let's say, and how Wilhelm Reich underpins that. And finally, this photograph is from as the eclipse was happening, before totality, from the roof of the museum. Down on Dodge Pond Road, you can see the cars are lined up. People were sitting outside their cars all along. Other people had walked up to the top of the hill. Someone pitched a tent. It reminded me of Woodstock. It was one of the most moving experiences of my life. And the tone of this photograph has not been doctored at all. This was what the light looked like, and it reminds me of something from the 1950s. So that is it. I'm going to stop sharing, and I know I'm out of time, but thank you. Thank you very much.